What's going on, y'all? Jordan. Another episode of Lightning Latest. Really excited for this one. Um, we are going to start off hot and heavy. We talked about the last few days the what if scenarios for certain top unrestricted free agents. Right? Like yesterday, we talked about OV. 2 days ago, we talked about Bob. We talked about Connor McDavid at the beginning of the series, Kirill Kaprizov. But now we're going to pivot to the RFA class. And honestly, this RFA class is one of the deepest classes I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. At the top, at the moment, Chicago's Connor Bedard. Still surprised to see his name there even now. The fact that he hasn't gotten a new long-term deal, it's kind of wild. I'm expecting it to happen at some point this season, but who knows? You know, uh, anything's possible because the cap, right? The cap has been rising so much, and numerous teams will be spending again next year. You know, we talked about a few days ago, right? The projected cap for next season is 104 million. I mean, you know, just the Bolts alone will have 28 million to spend. So, you know, who knows what'll happen. Some of that money will go towards re-signing some of their own players, but still, even if we re-sign, let's say a few days ago I talked about us re-signing Bjorky, McDonough, and Moser. You know, that's probably let's say 3 or 4 million from McDonough. Let's say Moser the same, about 3 or 4 million, and let's say Bjorky around 6. Okay, so that's 12 to 14 million. That you still got another 12 to 14 million to play with. So you know, who knows what'll happen. Um, it's unlikely he's going to leave Chicago, but you never know because it's going to be quite a wild free agency period next year. There's just so many top names projected on both sides that there's no way that all of them will resign with their current teams. At least I don't believe so. But hey, you never know, right? Anything can happen. Also, some other top RFA names: the Dallas duo of Thomas Harley and Jason Robertson. You know, pretty notable there. Utah's Logan Cooley, and as well as Montreal's Lane Houston. So it'll be interesting to see just how many of them leave their current teams, go to new teams. RFAs are more tricky, obviously, because of the right to match, but you know, you never know what'll happen. So it'll be interesting to dive in, but we're actually going to dive deeper into our next topic, which is the Florida Panthers, our final free agency deep dive, or preseason deep dive, I should say. The Panthers, you know, back-to-back Stanley Cup winners, right? They've beaten us the last 2 seasons to get there. And it's been pretty rough. Last season in 5 games. You know, we showed, like, no life for 3 of them, those games. So it was very disheartening to watch, but, you know, we got to get past them, right? So, you know, Bill Zito, the GM, he brought back pretty much everybody that was major. He lost Nate Schmidt to Utah, a couple other pieces, but, you know, Aaron Ekblad resigned. Sam Bennett resigned. Brett Marchand resigned. You remember Marchand was that big trade deadline acquisition. You know, they still have Bob in goal for one more year too, right? He's not going to be free agent until next year. So it's interesting to see just how good the Panthers will be once again, right? Will they go back to back to back, 3-peat? You know, that'd be crazy. The Panthers have beaten this, you know, latest Oilers juggernaut, because they are juggernaut at least in the Western Conference, the past 2 years. Will it be a 3rd year in a row? If that's the case, we might have a ratings spike spike dip on our hands. But, you know, this is the team the Bolts have to get past, right? They have to get past their in-state rival in order to get anything done in the Eastern Conference. Now, will it happen? That's the big key, right? That's always the focus. We are a veteran-laden, star-driven team. So are the Panthers. They're built a lot like us. So, in order to win Stanley, we got to get past them. I just have a feeling we're going to be meeting them in the playoffs once again. So, if that's the case, then great. That's the team we have to beat. We can't fall to them again, because I think if we do, there'll be some wholesale changes. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So, and how much will the 3-game series between the two really kind of reveal what we're going to be seeing once the regular season hits, right? Because they're playing, we're playing them twice here, once in Sunrise. So it'll be interesting to see just how much Coop shows his regular season looks, because he knows that the Panthers are going to be his biggest rival, obviously. So it's going to be interesting. We should see, I think, the majority of the regular season looks, but not everything. So, come week 1, night 1, Ottawa 10-9, we'll know how we're going to be looking for real. But for now, it'll be interesting to really take a look at how the Panthers series affects our regular season debut too. But we're going to continue with that relationship with the Panthers because the Athletic came out with an article recently comparing the run that both Florida teams have been on, right? So we won in 2020, 2021. The Panthers won the last 2 seasons. And they compared our in-state franchise, juggernaut role that both teams are on to the two Alberta teams in the 1980s, the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. And it's interesting because, so far, both the Bolts and Panthers of the past, since 2020, have won 4 cups, right? Avalanche won 1 in there as well, and we won't talk about that one. But in the 1980s, the Albertans won 5, including 4 from the Oilers. Now remember, the Oilers are the team that the Panthers have beaten the past 2 years in a row, right? They can't get over the Florida hump. Would that be the same against the Bolts? We're going to be talking about that in the next few days, so I'm really intrigued to see what you guys think about that, because it's going to be kind of a clash of wills, right? But us and Edmonton, there are similarities. So the Panthers have beaten them twice. If we can get past the Panthers, we should be able to get past the Oilers if we meet the Oilers in the final. Could be the Stars, it could be somebody else, but I'm feeling if it's not us, it's going to be Panthers-Oilers again. I hate to say that. NHL probably doesn't want to hear that for ratings, but that's just how it works sometimes, right? But that's okay, because we're going to have a pretty good year. Why? Because it's going to be year 2 of Hetty as captain, baby. It's going to be awesome. He had a great first year, right? Yeah, we didn't win the division, but we're a pretty solid team. Our postseason wasn't enough for us. Only 5 games. It's losing in 7's one thing, but we just really didn't get out there and do what we've done in the past to win. And the Panthers have shown us 2 years in a row now. So I feel like Hedman's really going to want to change that. And he's under contract with us until he's 39. So he's going to retire as our captain, more than likely. I could see him playing a couple years after that, maybe until he's 40, 41, and then retiring. But he could retire at 39 and be just fine. He's well beloved here in Tampa. I'm sure he'd probably stay here, or at least think about it. But he's also probably going to have another run with Sweden again soon, especially the Olympics. And it's clear that he's the right choice for our team captain, We got to keep him around until he retires. And I think if we do, there is a possibility he could win another Norris. Maybe 2. It just depends on how everything's break. Especially this year. If he continues that excellent level of play he had last year, right? He's mostly healthy. Got back to where he had been for years, many years past. Played great. He was honestly everything we could have asked for in our new captain and more. But, the sour taste is left in his mouth, is left in everyone's mouth, right? That 5-game loss to the Panthers was not reflective of the team we are and who we can be. The one way to really cement his legacy, now we talked about it the day, he's already probably going to be a Hall of Famer, but if he could win a Stanley Cup as the team's captain, right? Like Stammer did. Like Stammer won 2. Now if he could win 2, that'd be great, right? But if he could at least win 1, I feel like that truly cements him in the Hall of Fame, because I don't see a reason why he'd be left out. Especially if he continues his normal pace and continues to play great hockey. I don't see a reason why he won't be there. I don't know if it'll be first ballot, but he'll get in. And I can't wait for that day. So, the Swede will probably be the captain until he retires, which is just fine with me, just fine with a lot of Bulls fans. But we're expecting few more deep playoff runs, another Stanley Cup. It's got to happen. Can Bree Boy add more to this team in the meantime? That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, these unrestricted free agents, these restricted free agents next year. We're also going to be talking about trade targets down the line because there's just so much that could be added to make this team better. It's still very good, but there's some key pieces that could be gone soon. We could lose McDonough next year. We could lose Bjork. We could lose other pieces. I don't think we'll lose Moser, but everybody else, it's possible. So, we're going to talk more about the preseason series with the Panthers tomorrow, as well as we're going to start talking about what I call PDDs, or positional deep dives. We're going to talk about that as well, and how our roster is going to be looking. Some other news with Gage Goncalves and some thoughts about him, and a what-if scenario, because we're back with those, baby. But this is Jordan with Lightning Latest, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.